Okay, so what we are studying today, we are going to further our knowledge of nuclear reactions that you really started to look at in lesson 15 with that board game, where we looked at alpha decay, beta decay, fission, and fusion. We're going to go a little further and look at how elements are formed. So remember, in the last lesson, you had vocabulary terms of nuclear reaction, radioactive decay, fusion, fission, alpha particle, beta particle, gamma ray, alpha decay, beta decay. Okay. We're going to add a couple to those. We will see four new terms here. But let's go ahead and think about, the formation of elements, okay? So the nucleus of an atom is really difficult to change, and that's how we know that we can't just add a proton and say, hey, I have a new element, okay? Most changes to the nucleus require lots of energy. Some of those nuclear reactions occur spontaneously on Earth. When radioactive isotopes, remember, radioactive isotopes are unstable when they decay. Nuclear fission can be controlled and harnessed. Nuclear fusion occurs in the cores of stars, hydrogen bombs, labs with really powerful lasers, or in very strong magnets. Okay, these processes result in the production of new elements. Nuclear equations associated with nuclear reactions track the number of protons and neutrons before and after those reactions. Okay, so as a result of this lesson, you should be able to explain how different elements are formed through nuclear reactions, write balanced nuclear equations. And I'm not talking about balancing equations in terms of how many lithiums do I have. We're going to be looking at the masses, the masses of isotopes as well as their atomic numbers, okay? So we're looking at the numbers of protons and neutrons and how those change, okay? And you should be able to describe the mechanism behind a nuclear chain reaction. Think of it as a domino game. I'm going to talk about that, okay? So let's take a look here. Our big question is, how are new elements formed, okay? So the most powerful stars produce elements up to iron, which take temperatures of, roughly 200 million degrees Celsius, okay? 200 million degrees Celsius. So look at these two owls here. One is, using some tongs to harness the periodic table. And again, these are elements up to iron. So elements up to Fe, which is atomic number 26. The one says, I could actually use a lot of sunscreen. The other one says, will this do? Okay. So you see three reactions up there, and these are actually fusion reactions, okay? And you learned in the last lesson, fusion, we take two nuclei and combine them together. So you see two helium nuclei, and they are forming a beryllium nuclei with a mass of 8. The next, we have a beryllium nuclei that we had in the last reaction. We add another helium to it. It's giving us carbon. And then we take that carbon 12 and add helium to it, and that gives us oxygen 16. Notice, in each of those cases, we are going to have energy, okay? So the first question I have here is, what patterns do you notice in those fusion reactions? So if you take a look at those again, you should see that in each of those, energy is being released, and we are fusing a helium nucleus to the already present nucleus, okay? And so do you think gold can be created on Earth by a fusion reaction, okay? A lot of times students will say yes, and a lot of times students will say no. If this was possible, scientists would be doing this naturally on Earth, okay, saving us some time, and therefore gold wouldn't be as expensive as it is. Okay, so again, some new vocabulary terms. We have nuclear reaction. So this is something that involves changes in the nucleus, protons, neutrons, or both. We've seen this term before. Nucleosynthesis, it's the process of forming a new element. A parent isotope is what we start out with. You will see these on the left-hand side of a reaction. These can be larger or smaller than the daughter isotope, depending on what reaction they're going through. And then we have daughter isotopes. These are the ending isotopes. You should see these on the right-hand side of a reaction. Again, can be larger or smaller than the parent. Okay. Nuclear processes can be written as nuclear equations. Okay, so you see the same ones that we had before here. These are just some generic ones. We'll do some of these together here. What are some things that you can notice from maybe the last lesson? Well, here's the symbol for beta. And we also know that beta, we are looking at a change in that nucleus. Here's an alpha particle. Ooh, here's the symbol for gamma. Okay. So let's look at, kind of these three here. How does a nucleus change? Okay. When we go through beta decay, the mass number does not change. So that's telling me my mass number is going to be 51. Okay. But what we do know is the atomic number goes up by 1. So if our new atomic number is 24, then it must have started out as 23. Take a look at your periodic table. Do you see the symbol of V or vanadium as atomic number 23? Yes, you should. Okay. With alpha decay, we know that we are seeing a change in the nucleus by 4. Okay. So the mass number is changing by 4. The atomic number is changing by 2. Okay. Polonium, if you take a look, polonium's mass number is going to go down by 4. So 210 minus 4 is 206. Okay. And if you look at your periodic table, the atomic number for polonium should be 84. We're starting out with 84, and it's going to go down by 2, which is 82. Okay. Remember, when we have alpha decay, it's like saying, hey, we are emitting a nucleus of helium. Okay. Another one that we talked about in the last lesson is gamma decay or gamma radiation. When we have gamma radiation emitted, there's no change in the nucleus. So we have a mass of 234 and an atomic number of 90 again. Okay. Moving on. So let's talk alpha decay. During alpha decay, the nucleus of an atom emits a helium nucleus, and that's going to transform the element that we started out with into an element with a smaller nucleus. Well, what happens here? We're decreasing the number of protons by 2. We're decreasing the number of neutrons by 2. So the mass number goes down by 4. I want you to look at the difference in the parent isotopes and the daughter isotopes. So you'll see that I've circled all of the parents in blue and the daughter isotopes in red. Okay. Notice a change. The top number goes down by 4. The bottom number goes down by 2. Okay. And all of those, you'll see a helium particle emitted. Remember, you can also see that the alpha symbol. A lot of times my students like to call it the Jesus fish. That's up to you. Samples for alpha decay. Okay. During beta decay, a neutron inside the nucleus of an atom emits an electron and turns into a proton. Okay. We're going to be turning into a proton. So the mass number doesn't change. Since we're changing from a neutron to a proton, both of those are found inside of the nucleus. That's why the mass doesn't change. Okay. The atomic number is going to increase by 1 because our number of protons goes up. Okay. Here you'll see iodine 131 going through beta decay, and it turns into xenon. This was like on the board game where it tells you you're going through beta decay, move ahead 1 space. You can see us showing the beta decay with this, or you can see the representation with the beta symbol. Okay. Nuclear fusion involves the joining together of nuclei. This requires a ton of energy, and we will normally see our daughter isotopes being larger than the parents. That's what you should be seeing, okay? So the masses and atomic numbers on the right-hand side of that equation or reaction should be larger, okay? Fission. Fission involves breaking up of a nucleus into smaller nuclei. So when we have fission, we should have one nucleus on the left, two nuclei on the right, okay? The parent isotope is going to be larger than your daughter isotopes. And here we are releasing neutrons, okay? We're going to be releasing neutrons. So when I say I'm releasing neutrons, you could see something like this in an equation, okay? We're going to be releasing neutrons. Okay. Nuclear reactions, they change the identity of an element. Okay. The parent is your starting element or your starting isotope. The daughter is the ending. Okay. The daughter and the parent aren't going to be the same. You and your parent are not the exact same person. You may look similar to them, but you are not the same. Okay. The atomic number is always changing with nuclear reactions. That means my number of protons is changing. That also means the identity of the element is changing as well, because we learned in lesson 12 that the atomic number identifies that element. And so the identity is going to change because our number of protons is changing. Okay. Nuclear fusion produces larger elements from smaller ones. So nuclear fusion requires an extraordinarily high temperature. Okay. Most fusion reactions also release lots of energy, and fusion is responsible for the production of energy in stars. Remember, the sun is considered a star. If we could harness fusion on Earth, we might have a very clean and powerful energy source on the planet. However, generating temperatures close to those on the sun is right now kind of out of the question. So making gold using the process of fusion is actually really out of the question. Right? Nuclear fission is a process that releases enormous amounts of energy. A nucleus must be unstable before it can undergo fission. So for heavy nuclei that are stable, a nuclear chemist can sometimes provoke nuclear instability by bombarding them with neutrons. Okay, neutron bombardment means they're kind of shoving neutrons at them. They're shooting neutrons at their nucleus. Okay, what you see here, we have the nuclear fission of uranium-235. So you'll see a little neutron on the left-hand side, and it is being shot at the nucleus of uranium, and that is splitting that uranium into barium-139 and krypton-95. Now you'll notice their masses and atomic numbers add up. So barium and krypton together add up to uranium. You'll also see those the inclusion of that with the neutrons that are listed. Okay. And those neutrons, they'll get shot at another set of nuclei and they'll continue to break apart. Okay. Nuclear fission can result in a nuclear chain reaction that produces a large amount of energy. Now back here, you'll see 200 megavolts of energy. That's a ton. Okay. So a neutron is released from one nucleus to make that nucleus unstable, and it gets shot at, the one after it, the one after it, one after it. This is actually something that is really dangerous. Think of it like a dominoes game, one after another after another. You're flicking one domino and the other one's knocked down or they lose their stability. Okay. Everything is unstable because those neutrons that are being released. Okay. So here's a check-in question. How can you defend this statement? If you want to find gold, your best bet is to dig old gold out of the ground. Your chances of making new gold are slim. Okay. How can we defend this? Okay. The gold that we have, buried deep within Earth or in those quote unquote gold mines has been here since the planet formed. That's why we like to say it's old gold. It's really not feasible to say, hey, we can make new gold from other elements. Remember the alchemists that we had back in lesson 2, we tried to change a penny into gold. It doesn't really work because nuclear fusion requires temperatures that are billions of degrees high, and nuclear fission requires a parent isotope with a specific number of protons and neutrons. Okay, for example, thallium 201 and platinum 119. Okay, these do not exist naturally.